Hello and welcome. I'm going to do a little bit of this woo-woo kind of stuff as some would see it. Even myself, I think this is really crazy what I've talked about a decade ago and still to this day. I call it the 13 stages of consciousness, and it has been referred to as information from the Mayan calendar from Ian Lungold. And I talked a lot about this at the end of the last decade, start of this one. And one of the things in which I mentioned was the 2012 date had no tangible evidence, let alone proof, for that timing to be correct. I have no idea even to today why they even calculated that particular date. But the information that I found the absolute most important is the following, and that is the stages that I see as far as consciousness. I don't know about universally, but at least within our solar system region and our planet mainly. And that is stage number one, the first one, action reaction, which is the only consciousness that would have been around the space realm. And that would start off with a bunch of meteor bombardment and quadrillions to the power of something rocks crushing into our planet and so many other different things created, which would last for quite a long period of time, about 15 billion years, which is the most of the time we've had. And then we move into the second stage, which would be about 800 million years ago, which was referred to as stimulus response, which instead of just acting and reacting to things, you now respond to the actions and the reactions that are going on. And that's when life would basically start beginning on the planet, with when you consider all of the life in the water coming out and everything else. Number three, stimulus individual response, about 40 million years ago for when it started. And that's when it would be as far as and I don't follow this community at all, but the oneness community, the spiritual community, I guess, that's how I would think of it as. And now when it's each individual responding to different things instead of a mass consciousness doing so. Then approximately 2 million years ago, consciousness would realize things that are similar, different, recognition of the world around it. Stage number 5, approximately 100,000 years ago, as the movement towards the human race would move to very sophisticated cavemen, I think is the best way of pointing this out. Because before, it was moving from the dinosaurs to the early, we'll call them chimpanzee / monkey gorilla, as the humans, I guess, the Homo sapiens, whatever you want to call them, way back in the day. But stage 5, you find out the reasons for why you do things. Stage 6, consciousness is all about rules, law, which was about 5,000 years ago. And then for basically, when you look at this, everything pre-Bible, everything on the ancient history, Roman Empire, moving into the medieval, all the war years as we move basically into an interesting time, which is the late 1700s and early 1800s, which is when the consciousness of power would come in. And that's when we were building things like crazy, building empires and so outstanding. And the world went through a big change, at least in the North American states, at the late 1700, early 1800 time frame. Stage 8. This one, I think we have most definitely entered. And I don't know how much longer we have left, because I do not see us at all anywhere near having a full consciousness towards co-creating. But I see that manifesting more and more every single month and year. Now, with ethics and truth, this got into the very, very early stages at around 2008, where YouTube, everything was changing. Now, I know this was how my movement was going towards. But we as humans, it seems, would be having like the thing, like, doesn't mean you're going to be doing the right things, but it would also mean you would start to feel a lot worse than you would have in previous times when you do things unethical, and a more of a want to know the truth. And if you are one, I think anyway, that if you are trying to avoid the truth, it's going to hit you even harder when it's something you can't handle facing. That's what I'm leading that towards. Stage number 9 is when I think things get really, really interesting, and I do see this happening coming soon. That's the conscious co-creating amongst all of us. And because I can barely understand how this happens, I know for sure we have a long ways to go to get there. And when I went through the information from Ian Lungold, I'm taking stage 1 from 9 through him. I basically can understand it very well. I've done a lot of mathematical stuff to calculate different times, which is why I feel that there is 13 stages when I do my exponential mathematics. 9 doesn't make sense at all because there well, it happens to be about a week and a half of dead time that didn't make sense when I did my mathematics. And this is what I did back in 2009. I did this math. 2008, 2009. And then within different parts of spirituality, different meditations and different things, I was able to come across stage 10. And I think this is just through that measure. So this is how I view things to go, where we will, as human consciousness, get an understanding shot, if you will, where we will consciously realize what we've done, what we've created, and what we are all capable of doing. And this stage would last for about 1.5 weeks, or about 10 days and change maybe. And then an ascension period as we move into like a new world. Now, technically speaking, mathematically, I get it's about a little over half a day, but I do see this thing reversing back, and we'll be going through these cycles all over again in backwards reverse. So to summarize how I think this is going to be, the world's going to go through some crazy times, and the co-creation, everyone has a big event regarding its situation. I think the ethics truth one might be the social media movement of the late 2000s, early part of this decade. And co-creating, don't be surprised if cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin, is one of the biggest things that we co-create during this time frame, which is a new monetary system, new way of living. And because I see cryptos performing as it is, it really makes me feel even stronger for stage 9 to be legit. And we are doing such a thing right now. And as we move into, I think, sometime in the next decade, it'll be an interesting change in consciousness that a lot of us will go through. So anyway, thank you for tuning in. I know I'm going to get nailed with thumbs down because this isn't cryptos and it's very woo-woo kind of stuff, but I don't care. I'm just realize some people may be interested in this type of information. So have yourself a great day. Bye-bye.